You're watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and I always try to keep the promises that I make. I promised you I was bringing Heather back, and tonight she is back to share more information with us. And this is her fifth segment. So if you have not seen the previous segments, I encourage you to watch those before watching this, because then everything is going to make more sense for you. And make sure you watch the first segment if you're interested in any of these, because that's the segment where we gave you a basic introduction to Heather and how she got started doing this and what she did before, which I think it would be really interesting for you to know in order for you to really comprehend this journey she's on. Heather, welcome back.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Okay, so part five. First part, like you said, was the introduction, and then the last three parts were going into this structure here. So I'm going to touch on this just really high level to remind everyone that this globe is being ran like a corporation, a top-down pyramid corporation. So up here it's a little out of reach, but up here are the global CEOs, the powers that were. Yes, that's the part you can't see. But there's a management system here, just like any corporation. You've got the people on top that filter everything down to everyone else, and then low level management, monitors and manages all of the things. I channel a group of cosmic beings who have been sharing this with me for several years, and they told me it was time to start sharing it with the masses. And what they share with me is that there are four main pillars of control that are collapsing around the globe, that were literally created out of nothing to pull our energy, our time, our belief systems, our money, all of it into a system that they created from nothing in order to benefit from us. Okay, so the four pillars of control, the main ones that are collapsing, are political structures, man-meds, I gotta watch my words, banking and finance, and education. Education, my guides say, is the most corrupt. That's the one I'm most interested in. It was it blew my mind when the more I channel about that one. So go check out the last video. I think we get into that. And then the glue that holds us all together to keep us believing that we have to participate, believing that it's real, is the media, which we're covering tonight, Hollywood, which we're covering tonight, religion, which I covered in a previous video, and law. I haven't done a video on law yet. I think that's self-explanatory. So this is the system that basically punishes people that disobey, and it only applies to the people at the bottom, not any of these people up here. Okay, you can go turn on the TV and see that there's or even media, which is totally scripted to keep us in a certain mindset, which I'll get into today. You can look anywhere and see the more money you have, the more you get off. The more you don't have to, you're not punished for anything you do. It's all of us down here at the bottom that get punished to stay in line. It's all orchestrated for a reason. It's all created.
Heather, can I interject for one quick minute? And man-meds is the word we are using, because if we say the word that it is, so please use your imagination, our video will get pulled down. And whenever that word with the M, that means taking stuff when you're sick, whenever you use it on any video, it is getting pulled down, which should say a lot. The fact that that is happening speaks for itself.
Right.
Sorry, Heather. I just wanted to explain that so people know what we mean by man-meds.
Yes, thank you. Basically, it's the Western system to treat sickness. Okay, that's what we're referring to when we say man-meds versus natural plant medicine, healing techniques. There's all kinds of natural things that have been around for eons of time that have worked. Anyways, go check out that video. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but it's very interesting. Okay, so the media is one of the biggest pieces of what keeps all of this going, what makes us believe that we have to participate. So when we start out and we come out of the womb, our parents tell us who we are, what our beliefs are going to be, how to function in the world, etc., based on what they're told. And then we get into the education system at 3, 4, 5 years old, and that's regurgitated to us for 18 years. And then we get out, and then the media takes place of the education, because we got to keep this message going. they're saying, my guides are saying that the messages of how to interact with the world through these systems starts when you come out of the womb, and when you graduate and there's no longer teachers or people above you of authority telling you what to believe. They had to ensure that there was something else to continue those messages. Religion is one of them, and the media is the other. So this is what my guides showed me. The media, I'm going to cover Hollywood next, is very similar to Hollywood. It's all scripted, and it's purposely created and used to, it's designed to manipulate and hijack our mind and our emotions. So I cover this in a lot of my videos on TikTok, but in this reality we're in this third dimensional reality, we literally, and this blows my mind, go do research on Gaia, go to Rumble, Telegram. There's a lot of people talking about this on TikTok too, but the reality we live in, we create based on what we're envisioning, and what we envision comes from what we're watching, right? What we're being told in church, what we're being told in school. So then we envision what life is supposed to be, combined with your belief systems. So what you envision creates your belief systems. And when you combine that with emotion, that literally creates the reality that will create your reality and the collective reality of everyone across the globe. So the media is used to project images and ideas that the people at the top of this globe, okay, want you and all of us to believe in order to continue creating the reality that they want, because they're benefiting from it. Have you ever wondered why there's so many billionaires and trillionaires and there's people dying of starvation and sickness? And well, it's orchestrated this way. So the media continues to tell us, you know, they talk about the stock markets, they talk about, you know, mayhem and chaos and things happening on the globe. And what my guides tell me is they will literally take maybe one little pea of truth, and then they will create a narrative around that and blow it up and put it on the media so that we believe something bigger is happening than really is, or they will literally make something up. They hire, this first thing here, they hire actors, and you can find them there. I've listened to them share this on social media. There are people that are hired to play roles in these news stories. You know, have you ever seen a newscaster talking to someone on the street, a witness of something? These people, many of them, are literally hired and given a script of what to say. And there are many different videos, news videos on playing different roles with different names in order to project a certain narrative and a certain to get us to believe certain things. Because if we are turning on the news and we're seeing bombs everywhere, we're hearing about all the mayhem and the destruction and the war, it might be a very small thing, or it might not even exist at all. But if we believe that it's true by watching the news, then we will create that. And in addition to that, we're not all just creating that. It creates certain emotions that we harness. And when we're in fear and anger, it literally connects us from a higher level guidance. And that's the whole point. When I sum up these videos, the whole point of all of this, when they come out of the womb and you get into school and then you go to church or you watch the news or Hollywood, the whole point of all of this is to disconnect us from our higher guidance. Because if we knew, and, you know, we're awake, and so many people are awake, but if all of us knew who we really were and what we were really doing here, that we're everlasting souls in a human body, right? We came for certain things, we came to do certain things, experience certain things. If we knew that, we wouldn't be participating in any of this. So we have to get disconnected from that innate ability to connect to our higher self. You know, in school, we're told, stop imagining, stop making things up. Many children have gifts. Most children come in the world with gifts, and that's wiped at an early age. And then you start watching the news, and what's been wiped is now replaced with a new script of who you are and what you're going to believe and what this world is about. So they wipe your brain and then replace it, inundate you, right? So my guides say, did you see it yourself? If you didn't see it yourself, then question everything. Do your own research. And if you go to Google or Chrome or any search engine like that, you're going to get what they want you to see. The same people that own the media own the search engines. You're going to see what they want you to see. Like recently, I just saw some film from another country, I think it's Germany, where the farmers are rebelling against the government, and they're not projecting that anywhere. You can't find that on any news station in the United States, because if they showed us that people around the globe are starting to resist and fight together to end this stuff, then we would all be stepping up and fighting the system. But we only are shown what they want us to see, to create the beliefs that are going to support all of this, right? So if you didn't see it, you got to question it. Do your own research. Talk to someone who was there. Go to Telegram, Rumble. Gaia has a lot of great content, but question everything and do your own research. It's literally Hollywood. The media is Hollywood. It's the same thing, okay? And then we create our own reality. Went over that. And then do your own research. So I covered all of that. So basically, in a nutshell, the media system, right? 200 years ago, you just look to your local politicians or church to tell you how to live, right? And then with technology, they had to make sure that if people weren't going to church, or you weren't, listening to your local politicians, there was some way to hijack your belief system. That's why the media was created. And the next piece, I'm going to pause and see what questions you have for Jennylyn. But before I do that, what my guides tell me, I'm going to get into Hollywood here, that Hollywood was created when religion started failing. When people started questioning, wait a minute, I'm hearing this one thing in church, but then it doesn't make sense necessarily. There's some contradictions, or what my interpretation of what the Bible says is not what the person on the pulpit is saying. And I could go to heaven or hell. But also there's all these horrible crimes being committed in church in certain religious sects, but they're not doing anything about that. You're starting to question what's going on. So then they created Hollywood. They're like, we're going to create a system that is so shiny and attractive that it will be a buffer to come in alongside of anyone who might no longer be, people that are questioning what they learned in school or religion. And that's when Hollywood was created, which I'm going to get to next. So I'm going to pause and see what questions you have or comments.
So one of the things that I think a lot of people, whenever you present this type of information to them, will say, you're wrong, because I went to Google. Yeah. And this is what Google said. So I think it's really important that people understand they're all wings of the same bird, like I said in the previous interview. And so whatever they're telling you on mainstream, that's what you're going to find when you Google. So be careful where you go to get your resources, because you are not going to find it. What you're going to find will make us or make Heather looks like she's talking nonsense. So some of the places where you can do your research, like she said, is Gaia. Is this a membership website?
It's an app like that you put on your TV. So it's like Hulu or Netflix. You download it to your TV. You pay. There is a yearly fee, but I think there's a free 1-week trial.
Okay. Or you can go to these other sites now, where one is Rumble, one is Telegraph, and hopefully you can find supporting information there, but also books. And unfortunately, I don't know exactly which books. So the information that confirms what she's saying has been suppressed. So unfortunately, it's not easy to find the evidence to support what Heather just shared with us. Anyway, let's go on to Hollywood. What you have to share tonight is going to eat up most of the time.
Well, the alternative sites that you can get information is Rumble and Telegram. And this is what my guides are saying. So use your own discernment, okay? If you're reading something and it creates fear, or you're hearing something and it creates fear, ask yourself, is that coming from what you're hearing, or is it because it's threatening a belief system that it's hard to let go of? That's something that you believe since you were born, or something you believed your whole life. When something threatens a belief system we have our whole life, we resist it. We might get angry, we might get scared, we might get in fear, we might shut it down. People, this splits families, this splits relationships when people have different belief systems. And that's kind of the point. They want people to have different belief systems They want to cause confusion because they want us to be fighting with each other. When we're fighting with each other, we're not paying attention to what's really happening here, right? So what they're saying is that, again, don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. But if this is triggering you, especially this, not if you watch the news, you're going to just be in fear, and you're also going to not be hearing what's really happening. But if this triggers you, ask yourself, I don't know you. Neither of us know you. And this is not personal. So ask yourself, what triggers me? Why is this triggering me? And you will most likely find it's because it goes against something that you believe. That if your subconscious kicks in and says, your ego, your brain kicks in and says, this is too scary. If what I believe my whole life is not true, then what does that mean about other things that I believe? And what does that mean for my reality? And then you start to question everything, and that's called an awakening. And so be patient with yourself. Just know that it will set the intention to learn truth and to be guided to the places that will show you truth, and it will come to you because you do have a higher self. You do have a soul that's trying to speak to you and guide you, which is why all this stuff is created, to hijack you from, you don't hear it. This is wiped from us from childhood. So you do have a higher self that's trying to guide you. And if you say, I'm ready, I'm scared, but I'm ready to know truth, it will come to you in bite-sized pieces that you can handle. So they always tell me to share that, but don't take our word for it. And they're saying right now, if you choose to continue living the way you are, participating in these systems, giving all your money and time and energy and emotions to these systems, and staying in a job that you think you have to stay in because the system says you've got to get your retirement and 401k. If you're happy the way you are, then fine. Keep on believing what you believe. If you're unhappy in any area of your life, just consider this for one moment and then go prove yourself right by doing the research. Do the research, and you might end up, you will either prove yourself right or prove yourself wrong. But there's nothing wrong with doing the research. And I know so many people, they're reminding me right now, that went to go do their own research to prove to someone that what they believed was real. And by doing their own research, they were completely turned around and realized that the facts are out there, and it changed their belief system on their own. and when you do that on your own, then there's less resistance and less fear. So just recommendations. Okay, so Hollywood is one of the glues that holds all this together. This was created when religion starts failing. So they created a completely false system, right? I mean, everything in Hollywood they're all actors, they're acting in movies, right? We turn on the TV, I never have, but we turn on the TV and watch the award shows, and we want to know what these people are wearing on the red carpet, and then they're selling us stuff, and they're pushing agendas and narratives. That's on purpose. So it was created when religion started failing. Anybody who rises to fame and fortune, I have half of my TikTok content, most of it, actually 2/3 of it maybe, is about Hollywood. My guides told me to start sharing about Hollywood to wake people up, because anyone who rises to fame and fortune in music or TV or movies, even political figures, even religious figures, they have contracts that say, in exchange for allowing you to rise to fame and fortune, in exchange for getting you the coaches, the speaking coaches, the acting coaches, the music coaches, whatever it is, in exchange for that, you will have to sign these contracts that say you need to do these things. You have to do this in exchange. And what they showed me, and it varies by person and scenario, they look for certain ingredients in people to rise to fame and fortune. Can they be manipulated? Can they be used as an influence? Will they obey? It's three of the big ones. And then when they sign these contracts, they start out usually pretty benign. All right, we're going to help you rise to fame and fortune. We're going to get you your own TV show, or we're going to get you on a world tour, whatever it is. And in exchange, you're going to push this insurance product, this medicine product, this agenda, this narrative, right? And then once that's delivered upon, once they have that, once the celebrities, the famous people receive what was promised, then they're given a new contract and says, okay, see what we can do in order to continue. If you want to continue, performing, acting, being in the spotlight, getting the best options for movies, TVs, then you have to sign this new contract. And so the contracts start getting less and less benign and more nefarious, is what my guides, the term that they use, to the point where people are, I'm not going to get into deep on some of this stuff, but if you want to raise the fame and fortune, to continue rising to fame and fortune, you have to now do nefarious things. You have to cause harm. You have to be part of doing things that are, people would say, wrong or bad, right? But by this point, people are so addicted to the money and the fame and the fortune, most of them are willing to sign and do whatever. They're used to push agendas and narratives. Their life is not their own. All right, I'm just gonna say, I'll just share an example. So I've channeled Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake on separate occasions. I don't know anything about them. I used to 20 years ago when I followed them, but not anymore. And what they showed me is that really, really horrible things are happening to Britney Spears. Go check out all of that on my channel. I have a whole series on her. And Justin Timberlake, they showed me, wants to help her. He's feeling guilty for not standing up and speaking up, but his contract isn't allowing him to do it. He's not allowed to go against the narrative because when you go up in this global pyramid, everyone's contracts are owned by the same people. And so it's this well-oiled machine, this web of literally they're showing me like this low-level management will call Justin's agent and say, Justin's not allowed to speak about these things because this person's also over Britney Spears and Britney Spears isn't allowed to do certain things, right? So it's all connected to create a certain narrative. They don't have autonomy. Their life's not their own. So they might have $50 million. It might be worth $100 million. And that's the whole point, is to show the glitz and the glam and the, the things that we all wish that we could have, that we purposely are kept from having through the systems. And so we turn them on and we turn them on TV and we watch them and we're like, oh gosh, we worship them and we wish we could be like them. But they have the money, but their life is not theirs. And if they go against what their contract says they need to do, then a smear campaign is created. They won't get an opportunity to perform. Concerts get canceled. You don't get the role in the movie anymore. And sometimes worse, you might no longer be here. So depending on the level of resistance, their life is not their own. Did you want to say something?
No, nothing. They may not be here. You
gotta be careful.
You said it so nonchalantly, but it happens so often. All these people dying in bathtubs, overdoses. And after a while, you're like, wait, when the first person saw this person drowned, why would, you start, it just shows the presumptuousness of these people to think that we are all so foolish. And the people who are not seeing the writing on the wall, I'm not calling anybody foolish. I think some people are just not paying attention. But if you look, a lot of what you're saying is in our faces every day. And before the heavenly beings were sending these messages to us, I was questioning, I'm like, wait, it's not adding up. So much of what we're getting clarification on now plagued me because I have such a curious disposition, and things have to make sense for me to calm down and swallow it.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that you're bringing this clarification through. So any other person besides myself who's been noticing all these hot tub deaths and drug overdose deaths, it's like people aren't that irresponsible. I'm sorry.
Well, the thing is we were all fooled for a very long time. Not all of us, because there have been people. I remember hearing as a young kid conspiracy theories and thinking, oh, that person's just paranoid or whatever. So most of us have been asleep for much of our life. But when my guides, they told me about a year ago, they said, get on TikTok and start sharing what you're channeling. And I'm like, I didn't know what TikTok was. I thought it was some teeny bopper thing. And they're like, get on there. Now I know. And I said, well, what do you want me to put on here? And it was this stuff. And also they wanted me to channel Hollywood. And I said, well, I'm not interested in Hollywood. I don't really care. And they're like, just watch. And so what they've shown me is that Hollywood is a big part of the awakening. There's people waking up in Hollywood wanting to stand up for truth, but they're kept in fear just like all of us, because their contracts say if you push out, if you withdraw, there's all of these threats that are part of their contract things that will happen to them if they speak up. Now, whether those things actually happen or not, who knows? It's mostly threats to keep you in fear. That's how we're all controlled, is through fear. So when they started showing me, what I used to think of Hollywood is not at all what I think Hollywood is anymore. I now see it as they are all used as tools, And I know when I say this, sometimes people on my TikTok channels will get comments like, I don't feel sorry for them. They chose this. Well, they were manipulated. They were manipulated to believe that if they're making millions of dollars and people love them and they're famous, that will change whatever it is in their life they want to change. They'll be happy. They'll love themselves, whatever it is, right? They were manipulated and they're preyed upon. They're preyed upon on purpose. They, like I said earlier, they have the ingredients that these people look for in order to manipulate, right? So that's why the contracts are in place, because some of the contracts are they get to be so nefarious that pushes that Hollywood person awake and says, you know what, I'm no longer okay with that. And they're like, no, hold on, you signed this contract. And they're like, and then they start deciding whether or not they want to quit. What do they want to do? Do they want to leave? Do they want to push back? And there's fear involved. So I'm going to talk about one specifically here in a minute. So, okay, here we go. When they don't go along with the narrative that these people want them to go along with, the same people over Hollywood are telling the political people what to say and what to do. Same people over the education system. It's the same people, okay? And it's a handful of people at the top that are pushing all this down, just like any global corporation. So when they go against the narrative, my guide showed me, I'm going to just use her as an example, Ellen DeGeneres. They showed me when I channeled Oprah, which I'm not even going to talk about on this channel unless you want me to. I can dip into my.
We have to do a segment with them, the popular ones, okay?
Okay. So we won't get into Oprah today, but when I was channeling Oprah, they brought in Ellen and said they used them as an example of 2020. They said in 2020, Ellen started saying, I'm not okay with some of these things anymore. And so if you go back and look up online, you'll find it on Google. You'll find the narrative they wanted you to believe. And I believed it. I totally believed it until I channeled something different. The narrative was Ellen DeGeneres treats her people poorly. And so she lost her show. She fell from fame. And now she's doing some piddly thing on the side. So what they showed me is that the question is not whether or not she was a great manager. The question isn't whether or not she treated people well or not. She was not doing anything different than anybody else that's running large corporations. They just used her story because she started resisting and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. They pushed on that button and really, really created this narrative that she's a horrible person, horrible to work for, in order to give the excuse to take her show away and shut her up. But we are told the reason why she no longer has a show or no longer in the spotlight or whatever, or in some cases, people who are no longer here, we're told a totally different story. And we never question it because the news wouldn't lie to us. Google wouldn't lie to us. So they showed me that Ellen they said that's what they do to warn people. And it wasn't a warning just for Ellen. This is a public thing that they do to warn other people against speaking up and resisting. So whenever you see someone in the news, I remember they reminded me, I haven't channeled him yet and I want to. I remember a while ago, was it 10 years ago or something, Mel Gibson was being attacked for being an alcoholic or something, right? Anytime you see that in the news, anytime you see that in the magazines or online, you do what you want. But my guides say you can pretty much 100% of the time know that he did something that threatened what they're telling him to do. He either said, I'm not going to do something, or he's resisting something, or he threatened to come out and speak truth. And so they create a smear campaign because that's
how they cancel them.
That's how they cancel them, right? And so we're like, I don't want to watch Mel Gibson movies anymore. And so people stop watching his movies, or people stop, he's no longer given parts in movies or whatever, as an example, right? So they've done that with many people. I'm just going to say the famous list, the island list that just came out. Okay. I don't know if I can say it, so I'm not going to say it. The island list that just came out.
The E-list. The E-list.
The E-list, we know for a fact there was a list of people, and many of those names were known, of people that just from this one perspective, this one thing, were doing nefarious things. How come we haven't heard a single word about any of those people, but we hear that Mel Gibson's an alcoholic, stop watching his movies? It's like, what? So you have to start, and that's the thing, it starts with a little bit of a question. You might start to say, that's weird. Why are we hearing so much about Ellen DeGeneres being a bad manager? I mean, I'm sure that at least 50% of the people that will ever watch this video can raise their hand and say, I've had a horrible manager. Did they get smeared? Did they lose their job? No. Hey, I'm one of them. I stood up against racism and overt racism and discrimination and corruption at the company I worked for, and I got silenced, and they just moved the people around that were doing the abuse, you know? So you have to question when things are in the media or Hollywood, you have to question what's really going on. It's usually the opposite. The other thing they do when you resist, so say they will do this with the people that they feel, my guides are saying right now, the people they feel have the most potential to gain influence, or the people that are at the top that already have the most influence, so people's attention, if they go against what's happening, or if they start having illness issues because their body's literally rejecting what they're being told to do, they send them to rehab. And what rehab is a mind wiping, brainwashing system that reprograms you somehow through constant hearing the same thing every day, literally reprogramming your mind so that when you come out, you're more docile and you're more easy to control. So when you see people going to rehab, first of all, who cares about anyone in Hollywood going to rehab? Many people go to rehab. Many people struggle with addictions. Why do we care about these people in rehab? Because they want to create a warning for those people, and they also want to warn anyone else that might be considering standing up against the system. Okay, so they'll send them to rehab, but it's not rehab. Or they'll be gone from the spotlight or gone. And the challenge they're saying nowadays is with social media now, we are all the journalists, right? There is truth now being shown on social media. That's why they're trying to take stuff down. They can't know now because there's too many people, but they're saying there's a lot of people who are out there sharing truth, and they're literally now saying, if you don't see me, if you hear that I'm gone, if you hear that I died, just know that that was not me, right? And then they're gone. So it's starting to become so obvious, it's almost impossible to ignore what's happening here. So Hollywood is a tool to continue manipulating us and pushing things that they want us to believe. And that's the other thing they want me to remind everyone of, I forgot to say, is that, again, it's working in conjunction with the media. So I've noticed, they called attention to it. I've noticed recently, especially in the last 10 years, there's more end of the world movies, alien invasions, of mean, nasty aliens coming here. They're starting to they've been creating these narratives, war movies, right? Yes, they can be entertaining, but that's not why they're being created. They're being created because if you envision in your mind, I watched one of them that came out this year with Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts. I can't remember the name of it. And it made me scared.
Left Behind? Is it Left Behind?
No, it's like, it's something like that, but there's more words in the title. But I used to watch scary movies all the time. Nothing scared me. It was almost like a challenge. Like, somebody tell me a movie to watch and I dare you to scare me. But now I'm noticing my vibration, and I can see when I watch a movie about the end of the world or aliens coming down, it creates a level of fear. When I'm in fear, I literally cannot hear my higher self. And then I envision that and I think, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that doesn't happen. That's a horrible thing that could happen. That is what creates it. That is exactly what creates it. So they want you to watch these things, and they want you to have a level of fear, because that is the ingredient for it to form in real time in our reality. So all of this stuff is used and manipulated. My guides say, unplug from Hollywood, stop caring. If you're going to watch a movie, watch something that will uplift you, or unplug. Don't allow, if you start to feel fear, turn it off, because you don't need that in your mind, because your mind is what creates this reality, right? So be discerning about where you spend your time, and just know that this is a tool that's being used in conjunction with the media and religion and what we learned in childhood. See, these are all connected. See how they're all connected? It's like, okay, so there's people that don't watch the media. We got to fill in the blank then and create this over here, right? There's people who don't really listen to the religion stuff anymore, so we got to create this. They're trying to plug all the holes with things to cover all their bases. But what my guides are saying is the jig is up, is what they just said. The jig is up. People are waking up. They're starting to recognize that there's inconsistencies, or there's questions that can't be answered. They don't understand why certain things are being projected in the media and not others, things that they feel are more important. And so they're starting to wake up, and the people at the top of the globe are panicking. And so one more thing. They just had me do a prediction video on TikTok. More mayhem and fear is going to be coming at us. They're going to be doing as much as they can in this year and forward to try and hijack us through fear, because they know that they're losing control of the narrative. And the narrative is We're just humans in a human body that must participate in these systems, and there's no other choice. And when you watch and you participate in these things, they just build on each other to hijack your mind and your beliefs and your emotions, which creates the actions in your life. And you end up participating in the systems until you're gone. So we all participate in this based on our minds being hijacked. So they're saying we have a choice, and it's time to be discerning about where you spend your time and energy and money.
And have you heard, Heather, that if you watch a lot of these Hollywood, maybe not so much movie stars, but the musicians, if you look at the setting on the stage, a lot of red horns and red capes.
Yeah.
And I've known people who've gone to concerts and said that their energy was being siphoned in the concerts. And the day after, they had amnesia. And I'd heard this being reported. I've seen a lot of reports of it on TikTok. I didn't give too much energy to it until I met someone I trust very much who had it happen.
Yeah, so they do tell me that. They have shared that. I just did my most watched video on TikTok is about one of the big stars, the music stars. And they said that she literally is an energy vampire, is how they worded it. But she's a tool. And so the most famous, I don't even want to call them musicians.
Does her name begin with a T?
Begins with a G.
Ah.
The same two letters twice. But if the most famous people are not famous because of their talent, okay? They're famous because they're going along and honoring their contracts. And I have channeled several music stars, the most famous ones. Let's just name them. Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, Beyonce, Jay-Z. Okay, I'm just giving examples here of what I mean by most famous. The most famous ones are allowed to continue being in the spotlight, having the power, having the fame and the fortune because they're going along with what they're being asked to do. And I can promise you that when you reach that level, they've shown me it's because they've done things that they shouldn't be doing. And this is why sometimes we see stars have meltdowns, which Justin Bieber is one of them. And what they showed me is Justin Bieber's really struggling. He doesn't want to be doing this. But they took advantage of a young soul and who signed contracts because he was eager to rise in fame and fortune, and now he feels stuck, right? But they're going to capitalize on his rehab stuff because they have to reprogram anybody that's starting to short circuit and say, I don't want to do this anymore. So they do use concerts, they said, and I channeled this on my TikTok account, but they do use concerts to harvest energy. So they do that through the media, they do that through Hollywood, they do that through music. They're reminding me, go do your research on this. Guy has a lot of great content about this. I'm going to butcher the way this is worded, but there is a universal tone that all music used to be written from, and it's literally a healing tone. It's a tone that brings you peace. It can literally heal. And when that was discovered in recent history over the last couple hundred years, they changed the global standard for the foundational tone to create music in order to take away the healing and create something else that they can use to continue taking our energy. So it sounds woo and wacky, but that's what they've shown me. They literally, the people at the top of this globe are working together. I'm not going to get too weird, but the people at the top of this globe are working in conjunction to find ways to harvest our energy, right? And also hijack our minds and our belief systems. So if you go to someone who's really, really famous, it's a concert, your energy is purposely being taken, is being harvested. And you're supporting someone who is in this system doing things that are nefarious in exchange for fame and fortune. Now, I'm going to caveat, disclaimer, everyone I've channeled so far, they've shown that to me, and they're telling me anyone who rises to that level is in those contracts. But since I haven't channeled everyone, I have to say disclaimer for myself, that might not be everyone, but so far they've told me you can tell the level of obedience. There's the word there is right now. You can tell the level of obedience, meaning honoring the contracts, the nefarious contracts. You can tell the level of obedience based on how famous and rich someone is.
And if you look at their faces, if you have any doubt, if you look at their faces, like the G person, she does so much she looks goth all the time now. And all of them, if you look at them, they look like they're beautifully made up, they're beautiful, but they look empty to me. And that's just my personal observation. It's not the same face we saw, I think, when they first. And all of our faces change as we age, but this is something else. And if you
Right.
don't believe me, go look it for yourself. And if you want
Well,
to see the truth, you will.
go look at some of the newer stars, some of the younger, newer stars in the last 5 or 10 years. Go look at them, but when they were getting discovered, and look at them now. You can literally see the shift in their face and their demeanor. Did they all just happen to shift to the same type of demeanor? You have to ask yourself, why is everybody kind of looking the same? Why, when you look in their eyes, they just look distant or sad, or there's something going on, right?
Or dead or empty.
Empty.
I saw a picture of Justin Bieber yesterday. I can't remember where I saw it, and he looked like he was in agony. He looked like he was in pain, and I was wondering if he was ill. And I didn't know this. You and I haven't had this conversation before now. I didn't know
He's
your guides told you that.
he's what they said when I channeled him, bless his heart, he is very sensitive, and he has a soul contract in his life to step away from his fame and fortune and take care of himself and speak truth. And he's really struggling, is what they showed me. He's really struggling right now because he doesn't see how that's possible. And they said that, most of them are this way. The circle of people around them, some of them are planted in there to, they become friends with them in order to continue encouraging them to continue on this road, right? But a lot of them don't have real friends around them because they've been replaced by these obedient servants that are all part of the system. Because this person, let's say for instance Justin Bieber, he makes a lot of people a lot of money, and he has influence, and so it's a whole system that's created to ensure that he can continue performing, continue showing up, being the face for things, the brand for things. They'll even just create stories around his personal life in order to make money, sell magazines, sell products, sell an idea, right? And so again, his life is not his own. And what they showed me is he wants to exit. He doesn't care about the fame and fortune anymore. He's sick with worry, is what they're saying, because he doesn't know how to get out. He doesn't think he can get out. So
that's kind of the look I saw on his face, desperation. So sad.
it is.
People envy these people and want to be like them. And the strangest thing is, throughout my life, there was something I kept feeling around them. So many feelings I've had throughout my lifetime. It's now becoming clear why I felt the ways I did. And so I feel sorry for them, because when you're young and innocent and you have a gift and you can sing like they do, of course you want to become famous. You want to be the next big star. And this person or someone like that is so vulnerable and so easy to manipulate. And it could happen to me. It could happen to you if we don't do our research, and if you're not shown the complete scenario. If you're only showing bits and pieces, it would be easy to be sucked in and manipulated in that way.
Well, what they're saying is that that's the purpose of this, is they prey on the vulnerable. That's the word they use. They prey on the vulnerable, and once you get, but then they'll hype you up, right? You've got all the things you want. You got the clothes, you got the money, you got the girls, you got all the stuff. So then you start feeling more confident. But then if you go against it, they rip you down. They pull it all away, and then you crave to get back there again. It messes. They purposely mess with their brains in order to keep them vulnerable, and easy to manipulate. So I just what they're reminding me is, like, when I was faced with standing up against corruption at the company I worked at before, or staying silent like everyone else, something inside of me said I need to do it. But there were all of these fears of, well, if I do it, what if I lose my job? Like, I'm going to retire here. I have my whole plan set out. I got a 401k, I got a retirement plan. The system tells me I can't stop. Like, what am I going to do? There's no other option. They teach me there's no other option, right? So I had a stroke in my 30s from the pressure. Kept, oh, take pills, keep going. But something said, don't speak up. You guys speak up. And I could not see what was coming. All I could feel was my fears. But when I did speak up, the most beautiful, miraculous miracles started happening. And now I'm doing this, and I'm channeling for people all over the world. And I have my soul and my heart and my freedom and my autonomy, and I'm speaking truth, and nobody can stop me. When you work for a corporation, you can't say anything. That's how this is all set up. From childhood, you're taught if you speak out of turn, if you go against what we're saying, then you're going to be punished, right? If you don't get the curriculum perfectly, you're going to get a D, and then you don't pass, and you can't go into the world and function, because that means that you're not going to be manipulated by the media or Hollywood or religion. So we got to make sure that you know exactly what we're teaching you, and that you can regurgitate it out, because then you're a good little soldier and you're a little clone of everyone else, right? So it does take courage to stand up against the system, but we're not meant to live this way. And if you're feeling, this is for everybody watching this, if you're feeling that something is wrong at your job, or if you're in Hollywood, if this reaches anyone in Hollywood and you're feeling like you need to speak up, that is your higher self guiding you. That is not just a random voice, but it's hard to hear it through the noise. So just know that means that your higher self has your best interest in mind. You created much of your life before you came, all of the big steps, the relationships, the lessons. We have soul contracts for much of what we do. That's a whole other video series, but your higher self is here to guide you, to ensure that you're in line with your highest timeline. So those little nudges, that's why I was getting nudges to stand up and say, no, I won't do this. And I followed it, not even believing in any of this. I didn't know if there was a God. I didn't know if there was anything after this. But when I followed that soft voice, my life has unfolded in the most beautiful, miraculous way. And I could have never imagined a more beautiful way for it to happen. But at the time, it felt traumatic because I was in fear of what would happen. This is how we're controlled. It's because it goes again. When we're in fear, it's because we're told to be fearful of anything that you might believe that's against what we're told to believe. But when you follow that little voice, which is your higher self, you can't go wrong, and you're going to be guided to your highest timeline, which is going to serve you and the collective the best.
It's so difficult, and I know, and I'm listening to you, and it sounds like so much mumbo jumbo craziness. But if you are someone who has been paying attention, it can't still be mumbo jumbo, because suddenly all the T's are being crossed and all the I's are being dotted. But when you think about it, it almost makes you angry, because this one handful of people, or how many of them there are at this hierarchy, have been playing so many of us, and so many very intelligent people. But then when you try to define intelligence based on a lot of people that you speak to, doctors, they all go to the education. They're like, well, I had a great education. Well, who set the curriculum for that education? And who tested you? And actually, what you did is you passed the test to meet the requirements of those people who have been controlling us. How could that not make you angry? Seriously. So it's one thing to get angry, but anger doesn't fix anything. Hopefully, it will just make you curious to find out what else you've been lied to. And what you can do, nobody's saying to go and do any craziness, but how can you withdraw yourself from this control system so that you can have a better life, where you are not slaves to a bunch of evil people, because it's only evil that will do this to the whole world. Because in every single country, that little demo that you have there, they are all governed the same way we're born. We have these parents that teach us these things are right, these things are wrong. Then you have to go to school, and when you're sick, you have to go get the man-made M. and then you are discouraged from taking the meds that you can get from the herbs. And I know a lot of people who've been promoting herbs to help with cancer and stuff, and they're missing.
Mhm.
They've just vanished. I know at
And-
least 3 of these people. Nobody knows what happened to them.
Yeah, well,
And if we're paying attention or we're watching the news outside of mainstream, all of this stuff will start clicking like this. And that's what I did. And this is why when my guides led me to Heather, they told me I needed to reach out to her so that I can do this with her to help all the people who trust me and the content I bring for them to see what they want to do with it. And I want to make sure that it's clear to everybody watching, I am not calling anybody to any action to do anything violent. I'm just saying, please be aware and do your homework.
that's actually one of the main messages that on my TikTok channel that they share all the time. It's so when you start waking up, it's almost like the stages of grief. I don't know the stages of grief.
Yes.
This is what they're asking. It's like one of them is anger, denial, right? And you go back and forth in some of them, and they're saying that's where you just have to watch yourself. Seek truth, and then choose if, and I just did a video on this with art, with a drawing on my TikTok channel. You can choose then to choose love or choose fear and anger. If you choose fear and anger and start protesting, you start, talking negatively, angrily, trying to smear somebody, if you start investing negative energy, you're literally feeding the very system that you're angry about. And you're disconnecting from your higher self, and you're creating a reality of more of that. So they're saying, be patient with yourself. You're going to go through the stages of grief when you start learning truth, but then say, okay, I'm now awake. I don't know all the truths, but I know enough to realize that what I've been told isn't real. And I'm ready now to learn truth. But more importantly, higher self, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, source. More importantly, I want to be guided to a life of more joy. Now that I think about it, I'm not super happy in my job, or I'm not super happy in these situations, right? I don't have the answer, but I'm ready to be shown how to get out. And that's what happened to me. They're reminding me again. August of 2019, I was just beat down after 2 years of fighting them and refusing to fire these minority women they wanted me to fire, pushing banking products that increased their bonuses and the bank's bottom line, and not caring about people. I was so beat down that I was laying in bed at 3 o'clock, depressed on a Sunday, dreading going to work the next day. And I said, if there's anything out there that can hear me, anything at all, I feel my soul dying, please help me. And I didn't even know the word soul. I don't know how it came out of my mouth. Within 3 months, I was out of there. Not my choice, but it was so beautifully orchestrated that my guides say that's how it works. Your higher self, your spirit guides, God, source, creator, can't interfere with your free will. There is something called the law of non-intervention. That's a universal law. So until you ask for help, you might continue to see the same patterns. You get the same information. But once you say, I'm ready for truth, I've gone through the stages of grief. Please show me now how I can start creating a life of more joy and get out of these systems. You will be guided. The right person will come in. The right podcast will drop in your inbox. Somebody might call you offering you a tip. You might read an article, whatever it is, but you have to be open and ask for help and be patient with yourself and stay in the vibration of love instead of fear and anger, because that perpetuates all of this. That's what perpetuates this. When you're in fear and anger, you're subjected to being controlled so much easier. I'm sure people have heard this. Fear and division is what's used to control people, right? And that's why the 7th part of the series on TikTok, I'm not sure if we'll get to that. The 7th part of the series is they use fear and hate to divide us. Because if we're hating each other and angry at each other for a skin color or race or gender or religious belief or political belief, if we're hating each other, we're not noticing this. We're just hating each other, and our view is this way instead of this way. Going, wait a minute, what's actually happening here? Right?
That's why we have so many wars. Yep. That's why we have so many religious, I don't know if religion is the word, wars. Because the more we fight, and this is why we have the political wars, there's always something that is being perpetuated by the media that will force people to fight. And so while we are fighting, they are benefiting.
Well, and what they've said, and again, this is a whole more videos, but just to high level, what they're saying is that war is created. And what they do, what these people do is they create a problem, right? Oh, this country believes something totally different than this country. There's a religious war. And then they say, but we have a solution. We'll go in and we'll force feed down their throat. And if that doesn't go, we'll create a war around it. So they create the problem, or they make up a problem, and then they present the solution, which is war, right? If they cared about us, all of these people that are running the globe, if they cared about us, if the billionaires and trillionaires on the globe actually cared about people, then there would be more mediation. There would be more teaching love. We're not taught to love in school. We're not taught to love your neighbor. We're not taught to somebody has a different perspective than you. They look different than you. We love everyone. We're not taught in religion. It's okay if somebody has a different belief. Are they hurting anyone? First of all religion is man-made construct to hijack your belief systems and your money and your time. But we're not taught. We're taught to fight if somebody has a different belief, right? Because if we're fighting each other to the point where we're in war and we're killing each other based on a reason that they gave us, but we think that we're doing the right thing. If we're fighting each other, then again, we're not paying attention to what's happening here. So we got to pull back the curtain. That's what I'm doing. That's what my guides tell me. I'm pulling back the curtain to say, this is what's actually happening here. Now it takes a few months, maybe a few years to let that integrate, seek truth, and be loving and patient with yourself as more truth comes in, and then choose where do you want to put your time and energy into creating a life that's joyful, or fighting a system and perpetuating more of this.
And just so you know, I was led to Heather on TikTok, but she is like one of 100 people. Maybe 100 is an exaggeration, but there's so many people. And for some reason, these people end up in my feed. I don't know why, but same message. Religion is anyway, we'll leave that for another time. But let's put it this way. We have been grossly misled, misinformed, manipulated, stolen from, cheated. I mean, I could go on all night. And I sit here with Heather. We both have, my gift is nothing nearly as magnificent as hers, but I have a similar gift where I am told things like, don't go here, don't trust this person. Or I would just know things, and throughout my life, people couldn't figure out how I knew, and I can't tell them how I know, but it turned out to be true a lot of the times. And so you need to trust your intuition. We all have it. A lot of us argue and doubt it because we can't put a person with it. But that's your higher self. That's your guides guiding you. So maybe when you watch this, you should ask them to help you understand what you're supposed to get from this message. And I only do this because I've done the research and I'm convinced that what she just shared with us tonight is the truth. And I thank you so much, Heather. Did you want to say anything else before we wrap? Because we've run out of time.
Hold on, I'm asking. What's the last? I guess I would just reiterate that watching this information, right, or if anybody challenges your belief system on religion or any of these thought process around any of these structures, when you feel triggered, just realize that most of us are taught to fight with that trigger, right? Most of us are taught to resist and get angry. We're not taught to go and find out where that trigger came from. And most likely that trigger is coming from challenging a belief system that you're holding on to so tight. But then ask yourself, who gave you that belief system? Did you come up with that on your own after research? Or is it because the media told you, Hollywood told you, church told you, your teacher told you, your parents told you? Because all of those people are telling you exactly what they're being told to tell you based on this global structure. It's a well-oiled machine that's been going on for thousands of years. So if you're triggered, that means you're onto something. That means that's your higher self going, keep going, keep going. Do your own research, find out for yourself.
And those people, especially our parents, they're as innocent as we are. Some of them have left the planet believing what they were taught. And it's my hope that nobody watching this will leave the planet still believing this garbage, which is what it is. It's garbage, but it's garbage with power because it holds power over us. At least it has for as long as I've been on the earth. So, Heather, once again, it's always fun to do this because I'm just the type of person when I learn something new that I feel is going to benefit me, I want to share it with everyone, especially those I love, because I just want the best for everyone, even those people who hate me. So, thank you so much for the time tonight. And thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. Don't hate me. I'm just bringing the information to you along with, or Heather is bringing the information to you on my platform. And we both love you and want you to wake up. And we will be back soon with segment 6. Bye.
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.